He smiled right to her face, knowing that by that time, the very next day, she would likely be dead. Then later that night at around 7:15 p.m., Todd finally got home from work. And pretty much as soon as he got home, Stacy basically volunteered him to drive Arone home, kind of being like, okay, well, that's a wrap. Todd's going to give you a ride home. Have a good night. And this was something that apparently really bothered Arone. It just fueled his rage. The next day was October 11th, the day of the murders. And Arone was more than familiar with Todd's schedule, so he knew that he was going to be leaving pretty early in the morning that day. And like I mentioned earlier, he left around 4:30 a.m., which by this time, Arone was already awake and waiting. But he wasn't waiting with empty hands. He had his 20-gauge shotgun and 8 shells loaded with slugs. And that wasn't all he had. He also had come prepared with a backpack loaded with supplies. There were multiple flashlights, knives, toilet paper, a tarp, food. I mean, it was clear that he wasn't planning on staying at this crime scene. He was planning on running. So about 30 minutes after Todd left, at around 5:30 a.m., Arone snuck into the house through that window that he had propped open with the book the day before. And then he sat and waited. He could hear everything that happened that morning, from the kids waking up, to walking through the house and getting ready, to cooking breakfast, all of it. But still, he just sat there and waited, because in his mind, he knew it wasn't the perfect time to strike yet. And at first, it honestly kind of seemed like Stacy was his one and only target, which it's crazy then in hindsight to think about how far things ended up progressing. Arone then heard Devin say goodbye to his mom and his little brother. He went out the door and got on the school bus, and he knew that with every passing minute, it was almost his time to strike. Then, at around 8:30 a.m., Stacy went into that back bedroom that Arone was hiding in. Now, he must have known at some point that Stacy would be going in there, just walking right into his trap. It was also just Stacy and 2-year-old Braxton in the home at this point, but Stacy didn't have Braxton with her when she walked into that room. And as soon as she walked in, she saw Arone, and he wasted no time in doing what he had planned to do. He shot Stacy with the shotgun 3 times, twice in her chest and once in the back. And as you can imagine, it didn't take very long with multiple shotgun wounds for Stacy to bleed out and die. Now, I want to give you a huge trigger warning here. For those of you who have weak stomachs, you don't even have to have a weak stomach actually to need this trigger warning, because what I'm about to share next and what he did next is absolutely foul. Arone dragged Stacy's body into Devin's bedroom. He then laid her out on that futon bed that was in the room. He undressed her body, put a condom on, and he had sex with her deceased corpse. I mean, if you aren't gross enough with the incestual relationship that's already going on, adding necrophilia to the list, that certainly is like next level unhinged and deranged. I mean, it is so sick. It makes me speechless. Very rarely do we hear about necrophilia in cases at all, but now we're hearing about it also with their own family member. It is, oh God, it makes me sick to my stomach, truly. I mean, like, what in the actual F is going on here? And I have to say, too, the detail of him using a condom is kind of a detail that I get stuck on a little bit. At first, I thought that maybe it was so that he wouldn't get any DNA on her body when the police arrived and when they, do an autopsy and all of that, and so that he wouldn't get caught for the murders, because that, I feel like, would make the most sense in all of this, right? But it wasn't like he took it with him or disposed of it. After he was done, he just dumped the used condom in the kitchen trash can. So regardless if it was that day or weeks later into the investigation, I mean, they were going to know that it was him. They were going to find this. Plus, the fact that he had brought all of that supplies with him to go out on the run and to flee, it makes me think that he knew that he would be the one and only suspect and that he was going to have to go out on the run. So why go through the trouble of using a condom? Maybe there's something I'm not thinking, which tell me if you have other thoughts. Now, revolting as all of that is, which I know it is absolutely disgusting, atrocious, revolting, makes you want to vomit. But this next part is even harder for me to describe. At around 9:30 a.m., about an hour after killing Stacy, Arone did something that completely altered the entire course of this entire case.